Morning, everybody. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of the quadratic sheets that you guys have. So students are going to be able to solve quadratic equations based on the quadratic formula and completing the square. So remember the sheet that you have, it's the same sheet on both sides. And I suggest that on one side you do quadratic formula, on the other side you do completing the square. So what I'm going to do is the odd numbers for quadratic formula, then I'll do the even numbers for completing the square. So you can follow along with me. So quadratic equation, remember you have ax squared plus bx, whoops, getting ahead of myself, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That's standard form. Polynomial, so that's one that has powers. Terms, these three terms that we have here. Factoring, completing the square, quadratic formula, typical stuff we've been talking about. So let's do quadratic formula on the odd side. So we got 2n squared minus 6n plus 12 equals 0. So first thing I'm going to do here, just to make my life a little easier, is divide everybody by 2. So we have n squared minus 3n plus 6 equals 0. You could leave it, and it's going to give you the same thing. It's just we're going to have to simplify fractions later. So a is 1, b is negative 3, c is 6. So negative b is, so x is negative b, which is 3, plus or minus the square root, b squared is 9, minus 4ac is minus 24. All over 2a, which is 2. So that's 3 plus or minus square root of that's negative what? Negative 10, 15 divided by 2. And square root of negative 15, I can pull an I out of there. So we got 3 halves plus or minus I root 15 over 2. So we can split that up. X is 3 halves plus I root 15 over 2, or x is 3 halves minus I root 15 over 2. There we go. There's our first one. Next up, we got n squared plus 12n plus 9 equals 0. In standard form, can't simplify it. So a is 1, b is 12, c is 9. Negative b, x equals negative b, so that's negative 12, plus or minus square root b squared is 144, minus 4ac, 4 times 9 is 36. All over 2a, which is 2. So we got, let's see, negative 12 over 2, that's negative 6, plus or minus 144 minus 36. Let's see, that's 108. So we got root 108 over 2. So 108, let's see here. I think that we can pull a 36 out of that. I think that's 36 times 3. So this is negative 6. Whoop. Didn't have to be that high. Plus or minus, so 36 times 3, so square root of 36 is 6 root 3 over 2. We'll simplify that. So we got negative 6 plus 3 root 3, or negative 6 minus 3 root 3. There you go. All right, let's take a look at number 5. So 9n squared minus 3n plus 7 equals 0. A is 9. B is negative 3, and C is 7. Negative B, plus or minus, square root B squared, minus 4AC. Oh boy, 4AC, let's see. So 4 times 9 is 36. 36 times 7, 7 times 8, it's 210. And another 42, 252. Wow. Okay, all over 2A, which is 18. That's an X. All right, so that is 3 plus or minus the square root of, that's negative what, 243 divided by 18. So we're definitely going to have an I in there. Oh, but 243 is actually, what is that? That's 3, is that 3 to the 5th? I think it is, yeah, because it's 3 to the 6th. So that means that I can pull all kinds of fun stuff out of that. I think that's 81 times 3. Okay, so we have 3 plus or minus square root of 81 is 9. So we have 9i because of the negative, square root of 3 over 18. Now we can do some simplifying. 3/18, that's 1/6. Plus 1/2, so it'd be root 3, I root 3 over 2, because 9/18 is 1/2. Or 1/6 minus I root 3 over 2. There we go. Cool. All right, so got our odd numbers there with the quadratic formula. And now let's take a look at the even numbers with completing the square. So now we're completing the square over here. So you got 10x squared minus 4x minus 11 equals 0. So remember, the first step here is going to be that we're going to divide by the a term. That's 10. So if I divide everybody by 10 here, it's a little bit of a mess, but let's see if we can get it. So divide by 10, we're going to have x squared minus 4 tenths, that's 2/5 x, minus 11 tenths. We're going to move the 11 tenths to the other side. So we have x squared minus 2/5 x. I'm going to leave a space here so we have room to complete the square, equals positive 11 tenths. Now we're going to take this guy right here, we're going to divide it by 2 and square it. So 2/5 divided by 2 squared. So 2/5 divided by 2, that's 2/10, or 1/5. So 1/5 squared is 1/25. Messy numbers on some of these, but you just got to get good at fractions. So we're adding 1/25 to both sides. All right, so the left side now we're going to factor. And remember, it always should be a perfect square. And little tip here, it's always going to end up being this 2/5. Whatever this, divided by 2. Whatever we have in there, that's what it's going to be. So in this case, it's going to be 1/5. So minus 1/5. Another way to do it is it's always the square root of this number right here, but it could be plus or minus. You got to check the sign right here. So that's going to be equal to, let's say we got to go to 50ths. So this is 55 50ths plus 2 50ths. So we have 57 50ths. All right. Sounds good to me. So looks like then if we take the square root of both sides, we're going to have x minus 1/5 is equal to, let's see, root's 57 over 50. Yuck. That's fun. Okay. And then we can add the 1/5 to both sides. So we have x, sorry, it's plus or minus. So we take the square root, you got plus or minus. So x equals 1/5 plus or minus square root of 57 over 50. Now, if you can get to here, I'm pretty happy. But really, the root 50 in the bottom is not okay. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to double both of these. So 1/5 plus or minus square root of 114 over 100. Why did I do that? Because the square root of 100 is 10. So that's 1/5 plus or minus root 114 over 10. Now root 114, let's see, that is what, 57 times 2? Yeah, there's no perfect squares in there. So that's it, as far as we can go. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Here it looks like I could divide everything by 3, but when I divide by 12, those fractions are going to simplify anyway, so let's just do that. So we got n squared, 9/12 we divide by 3, that's 3/4 n, minus 3/4 equals 0. Now move 3/4 to the other side, so we have n squared plus 3/4 n equals 3/4. The 3/4 divided by 2 and squared, all right. 3/4 divided by 2 and squared. That's 3/8 squared. That's 9/64. Wow. Getting some real work with fractions here, huh? 9/64. Okay, so on the left side now we factor. And it should be a perfect square. Square root of 9/64 is 3/8. So n plus this time, because we have plus here, equal to, so 3/4. 4 times, what is it, 16? 4 times 16, 64. Is that right? Yes. So what we're going to do is multiply the top and bottom by 16. So it's 48 plus 9 over 64. All right. I'll use some space over here to finish this out. So if we take the square root, 48 plus 9 is 57. Again, man, we really like using that 57 number, don't we? So we have n plus 3/8 equal to plus or minus, remember, because we take the square root of 57 over 8, because the square root of 64 is 8. So we have n is equal to 3/8 plus or minus root 57 over 8. You can stop there, or you can split it up, right? 3/8 plus root 57 over 8, or 3/8 minus root 57 over 8. Now hopefully you're getting the same numbers for the quadratic formula and also for completing the square. They end up being the same thing, right? We have roots, we have the plus and minus, it all ends up giving the same answer. Cool. All right. One more. So we got 10a squared plus 4a plus 10 equals 0. So divide everybody by 10. So we have a squared plus 4/10 is 2/5 a plus 1 equals 0. Move the 1 to the other side. So we got a squared plus 2/5 a equals -1. 2/5 divided by 2 is 1/5. Squared is 1/25. So left side we have a squared 1/25 is 1/5 squared equal to, so -1, that's 25/25, plus 1 is -24/25. Square root both sides. Ooh, we're going to have an I here, it looks like. So we're going to have a plus 1/5 equal to plus or minus square root of -24/25. So a plus 1/5 equal to plus or minus, so root 24, I can take an I out of there, and also a 4. So this is going to be 2i root 6 divided by 5. All right, subtract 1/5 from both sides. So we have a equals -1/5 plus or minus 2i root 6 over 5. Break it up. A is -1/5 plus 2i root 6 over 5, or -1/5 minus 2i root 6 over 5. There we go. Whew, a little completing the square. Not too bad. All right, hope that you guys learned something by doing these. So you should get the same answer when you do either completing the square or quadratic formula. Sometimes you have to simplify at the end just to make sure you have the same answer, but that's really all there is to it. All right, love you guys. That's why I'm here. Hope you have a great day.